Have you ever wondered why 50 Cent was shot 9 times?
Where were you shot? Which part of the body? Where did the bullet
Oh,
go?
man, I got shot in my hand. My thumb came out of my hand, face.
Shot in the face?
Yeah.
And where did that come out?
Knocked the tooth.
Wow, oh my goodness, there's a hole there.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm surprised the bullet went through there, but it's alarming.
50 Cent wasn't shot because of a random street or rap beef, and neither was he shot by a random rival gang member. See, the reason for 50's shooting began back in the late 1980s and goes all the way back to the streets of South Jamaica, Queens. Back when 50 wasn't even known as 50 Cent, during this period, many referred to him as Boo Boo. His problems began when he decided to go against one of the biggest players in the dope game, Kenneth Supreme McGriff. You see, during this period, 50 Cent was very different from the man you know now. He wasn't a mogul, he didn't have multi-platinum albums, and he certainly didn't appear in movies. This man had to grind his path all the way to the top. Unfortunately, he lost his mother when he was just 8 years old. 50's mama was a drug dealer who gave birth to her son when she was just 15 years old. And losing mom when he was so young is probably the reason why 50 jumped off the porch so early. His dad simply wasn't in the picture. Curtis James Jackson was already in the streets selling drugs as early as the age of 12. At 12 years old, 50 Cent had to survive by himself in the hard, dangerous streets of South Jamaica, Queens. But 50 Cent was just a small-time drug dealer. There were other men at the top of the dope game, and to the young 50 Cent, these men were like role models. One of them was Colbert Johnson, who was known in the streets as Black Just. But Black Just wasn't the man you would be told to see if you asked for the boss. Instead, the man at the top of the white powder-colored food chain was Kenneth Supreme McGriff. Supreme was the man in the streets, the man who called the shots. He was truly the top dog. Now, there were several drug dealers in New York, but the South Jamaica section of Queens was Supreme's turf and belonged to him and the Supreme team. Yes, there was a Supreme team. The Supreme team ran their operation in the Baisley Park houses in South Jamaica. And this wasn't just another random drug dealing operation on a street corner. No, Supreme ran his crack cocaine dealing operation like a legal company or enterprise. According to the word on the streets, the Supreme team had somewhat of a 24-hour delivery service, and they were well respected and feared in the streets. And because of how effective the Supreme team were, they were allegedly making 200 racks per day. That's how profitable and liquid the Supreme team was. And just as their income continued to increase, so did their numbers. Under Supreme's leadership, the Supreme team grew to have hundreds of members all on their payroll. But the major players in the Supreme team were Gerard Miller, aka Prince. Prince was the second in command behind Supreme, and was also Supreme's cousin. And this was a man you don't mess with. Because while Supreme was the brains of the operation, Prince was the brute. Prince would rather shoot first than ask questions later. He wasn't a firm believer in diplomacy or any of the sorts. He was a son of a gun and ruled with fear. You could say Prince was like Sonny in the movie Godfather, while Supreme was like Michael. The next major manager of the Supreme team was James Bimmy Antony. Unlike Prince, Bimmy wasn't the violent kind. Just like Supreme, Bimmy's focus was always on the money, and he also dabbled into hip-hop. He used to roll with Run DMC, and was also friends with Def Jam's Russell Simmons. Next was Ernesto Pinella, aka Puerto Rican Righteous. This man was one of the most feared members of the Supreme team. Some sources speculate that he was the Supreme team's enforcer, a loose cannon, the one who always solved any problem or fixed the situation, if you know what I mean. Ironically, the enforcer ended up testifying against the Prince and some other members of the group. Why? Because Prince allegedly had bedroom relations with Ernesto's wife. Still, the ladies' man of the Supreme team was Troy Jones, aka Babywise. And it seems Babywise stayed true to his name and was truly a wise man. Apart from having the women wrapped around his finger, the reason why you won't see many pictures of Babywise in this video or anywhere else is because he never took pictures, and he didn't even talk business on the phone. He was smart enough to avoid the wiretaps or anything else that would put him in trouble. But Babywise always stayed loyal to Supreme. He was a man of few words, but when Babywise had something to say, everyone listened. When he wants to holla at you, you know you gotta show him respect. Babywise knew to cut out when things were getting too hot and how to keep things on the low-low. And according to several sources, He was making about 25 to 30 G's per day. Till today, Baby Wise allegedly remains a free man and has simply escaped into the abyss. Other notable members of the Supreme Team are Knowledge, Pookie, Shannon, Big C, C-Just, Tucker, and the last major member of the Supreme Team was Black Just. Black Just was the closest to 50 Cent. All these major members of the Supreme Team were OGs that 50 Cent looked up to. They were like role models, and some reports even stated that 50 even wanted to be a Supreme Team member. This tells you just how much influence the Supreme Team had. So Black Just took 50 Cent under his wing. He was allegedly the fourth in command in the Supreme Team, after Supreme, Prince, and Bimmy. He financed a boxing gym and encouraged 50 to learn how to box, and he also bought him his first GSXR motorcycle. However, the good times wouldn't last forever for the Supreme Team. Supreme was arrested in 1987, 6 years after he started the Supreme Team. And 2 years later, the drug lord pleaded guilty to engaging in a continuing criminal enterprise. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison, but he only spent 5 years before he was released on parole in early 1994. But the OG violated his parole before the year even ended and was sent back to prison for another 2.5 years before being released in 1997. When Supreme was released, the streets was evolving, and hip-hop was the new rave that was making many men from the streets millionaires. And the best part is, it wasn't illegal to be a rapper. It was a clean way to rake in the Benjamins, and Supreme wanted to be a part of that. Therefore, he hooked up with Murder Inc. Records. Ja Rule was bringing in the money. This is why Supreme joined Murder Inc., and he even described them as his meal ticket. But it was also during this period that another young rapper had evolved from Boo Boo to 50 Cent. While Ja Rule was already a star, 50 was a young, hungry underground rapper. He had nothing to lose, and he feared no one. Now, 50 and Ja Rule were never friends, but as at this time, they were quite cordial. But the duo started beefing after this incident in 1999. It all started when Ja's chain was snatched by a man called Big Nose Troy. Troy accused Ja Rule of sleeping with his wife, and this was supposedly the reason for the robbery. So Ja reached out to Supreme to help him sort out the issue. Supreme ordered a man to help him get the chain back, and within 15 to 30 minutes, he had gotten back the chain. And after some time, 50 Cent and Troy were in a club kicking it together, as they have always been friends. 50 claims that Ja Rule was also in the same club, and saw both of them making jokes together. And this was when their beef started.
A friend of mine's robbed Ja Rule. And I'm in a club, and I see the nigga, I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, I'm chilling. He see me kicking it with the nigga that robbed him, and he feel like, oh shit, I shouldn't speak to this dude, because I know the kid robbed him, but I know this kid, I grew up with him.
50 Cent went to greet Ja Rule in the club later, but Ja wasn't having it. 50 stated that he was ignored by Ja and the entire Murder Inc. crew. And you know 50 wasn't going to accept any disrespect. But out of respect for Supreme, he talked to him about it because he knew that Supreme and Murder were in business together. Supreme's response was, "Yo, leave this little dude alone. You know they pussy, but this is my food." Now 50 stated that Ja Rule and his Murder Inc. homies were never about the street life, even if they always claimed that they were.
So yo, 50, what's the definition of a wankster, man? I mean, what is that?
Ja Rule, Irv Gotti. I'll tell you personally, the Murder Inc., the people that you see like Irv, Ja, the people that are involved in the business aspect are bitches. Like these niggas don't got no hood in them.
Supreme told 50 Cent multiple times to leave them alone, as they were his meal ticket, but the beef only got worse from here. 50 and Ja met each other at the Swiss Hotel in Atlanta, as they were both booked to perform at the same show, and this would be the first time the duo will get physical with each other. 50's manager Chaz Williams even organized a meeting for them to speak together and try to squash the beef. But this discussion turned into a fight, as they both ended up exchanging punches. 50 Cent somehow ended up with Ja Rule's chain after this fight, and he wasted no time in letting everyone know about it.
Nobody likes me. I don't believe you. Murder, murder, your life's on the line.
He dropped the diss song, Your Life's on the Line, and in that video you just saw, 50 was wearing the chain he took from Ja Rule, and this was obviously the ultimate disrespect. Supreme eventually collected the chain from him and returned it to Ja Rule, but 50 also got a gold watch in return. But on the 24th of March 2000, the beef got physical again. Ja Rule and 50 were in the same building, but in different rooms. When Ja heard 50 was in the Hit Factory studio, not far from him, he convinced his homies to go and jump him because he couldn't join them as he was on crutches. 50 and 4 other people were involved in a fight with Black Child, Irv, and Chris Gotti, and some other Murder Inc. members.
Yeah, what's beef? Know what I mean? Beef is when you see it in this fucking studio or wherever and want to talk and it's like, nah, ain't nothing to talk about, right? It's like 5 of us and 5 of them just getting it on and fighting and bang. Some way, somehow, the lights got hit off and was getting it on in the dark.
Unfortunately, 50 was stabbed by Black Child, but somehow managed to survive. Black Child was arrested, and a judge issued a restraining order against the members of Murder Inc. and in favor of 50. This is what started the rumor that 50 was a snitch. However, what really turned Supreme and the rest of the streets against 50 and also put a target on his back was the song Ghetto Quran. 50 Cent's Ghetto Quran is like a tell-all expose about the major drug dealers in New York.
Yo, when you hear talk of the South Side, you hear talk of the team. Fear Prince and respect it, Prince. For all you slow motherfuckers, I'ma break it down illa. Supreme was the businessman and Prince was the killer.
Now, 50 Cent claims that everything he said in the song was information that people already knew, and that he was only paying homage to the major players of the dope game. But Supreme didn't see it this way. He stated that 50 Cent was dry snitching, and he was going to do something about it. Also, 50 had always shown that he respected Supreme, but he was never scared of him.
Supreme came to the block, 50 up there. Supreme, dude, you know the old school shit. You know what 50 did? Yeah, my nigga.
Do it back, yeah.
Yeah, my nigga.
That's
you know what the block did?
Yeah, that's what
That's when I knew 50 didn't give a fuck. And that's when I knew Supreme didn't like 50.
But for a man like Supreme, he needed people to fear him. That's how he maintains his street cred. Supreme decided that it was time for 50 to go, and he put a hit out on 50 for $25,000. And at around 12 p.m. on the 24th of May 2000, 50 Cent was shot 9 times. The bullets tore into his face, his arms, legs, hip, and chest. 50 had a swollen tongue, a broken leg, he lost his wisdom tooth, and this is also what led to his slurred voice. He was kept in the hospital for 13 days before he was eventually released.
Where were you shot? Which part of the body? Where did the bullet
Oh, man, I got shot in my hand. My thumb came out of my hand, face.
Shot in the face?
Yeah.
Where did that come out?
Out the tooth.
Wow, oh my goodness, there's a hole there.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm surprised the bullet went through there, but it's alarming.
It was later revealed that 50 Cent was shot by Daryl Hamo Bomb. During this period, 50 was so paranoid that he couldn't leave his house without his pistol and a bulletproof vest. For Supreme, he was eventually found guilty of drug trafficking and murder conspiracy and sentenced to life in prison. But for 50, he did almost die while trying to get rich, but he survived and became as rich as he could ever have imagined.